Hey everybody, it's Holly from the Urban Homesteader. Welcome back to the channel, and also welcome to my shed. Sorry about the mess. It's a disaster in here right now. I'm finding myself in between seasons, and I am rearranging as to what I'm going to need for fall and winter and putting spring and summer stuff away. So you can't see what's behind the camera, but trust me when I tell you it's a mess. Anyway, today we're going to be talking to you about molting. Molting is something that chickens do every fall. Well, depending on their age. So if they're fairly young chicks or chickens, pullets, they're going to maybe do a molt, but it's going to be a very, very light molt, and you might not even know what the difference is. My chickens right now are all of various ages, and wow, they are molting like crazy. I went into the coop this morning to do my normal chicken chores as I do every morning, opened the door, and was a little blown away by the amount of feathers that were laying on the ground. It looks like they had an all-night party in there. And it's nothing to be alarmed about. They're just doing their chicken things, and this is very normal. So what happens is they start to lose their feathers in the fall, and then they look like they are balding. They lose basically from their neck to their tail in that order. However, I've got a chicken or two out here that just looks super randomly plucked. Almost, it makes you feel really bad. Trust me when I tell you they're fine. For me in central Minnesota today, the weather this week, the last couple of weeks, looks like the forecast going forward is really going to be quite warm, unusually warm, which is kind of nice for these chickens because as they're losing feathers, they lose their way of keeping themselves warm. If this were later in fall, let's say October, November, when the temps start to drop, you may want to consider putting on a saddle, and I can show you one of those at another time. But that would help them keep their warmth overnight. So just to keep them a little more comfortable. Anyway, so what happens is they lose their feathers and they look terrible. They look like they have just been partying hard for a long time, but it's okay. Don't freak out. Some things that you can do to help them get through this molt is to adjust their feed a little bit. So when they're losing their feathers, they're creating new feathers for the winter. And that takes a lot of energy. So some things that you're going to notice is that your egg production is going to decrease significantly. I have 18 chickens and I'm getting about 2 eggs a day, which is not great. But we have to understand that this is what happens to them. And once they get past the molt, they'll get right back, hopefully get right back into egg production. Now with that said, production will be lower than normal versus summer versus winter because it's all depending on daylight hours. So that's a whole nother topic, but we should definitely be seeing more than 2 eggs a day. Gosh, I hope so anyway. So in order for them to get back into the swing of things, if you will, I am going to adjust their feed by giving them a little bit of a protein boost. So what I did was I bought some actually chick starter grower feed. So that feed is actually a little more amped up in the protein department. Unfortunately, they don't have it in pellets, which is the form of food that I like to do. Excuse me. It's actually in crumble form. You can see here, I've started this process. I'm kind of doing like a mix match a la carte feed station for them. And I'm hoping that I only have to give this to them for maybe like another month. I feel like they have been going through the molt already for a month and that you would think that it would be coming to an end, but by the looks of the feathers in the yard, in the play yard, and in the coops and in the chicken runs, there's no end in sight for me. They just look really, really tough. I'll have to show you guys some pictures and some video of them just roaming around the yard. They just look terrible. And I don't want anybody to think that they're being treated badly. They're not. They're just molting. Anyway, so what I did was I bought them some grower feed, which has that higher protein. I also bought them some, oh, this sounds delicious, mealworm and nut. It's a combination. So they have in this particular bag, there was peanuts, sunflower kernels, and some dried mealworms. So also very high in protein. This says elite mealworm and nut is a flavorful protein-rich feast that will attract a variety of birds. This is actually in like the songbird or bird food section at the store. I looked in the chicken department and they only had mealworms and they had some like blackened sunflowers and that sort of thing. That's not what I wanted. I just wanted to make it easy, make one big bag purchase and call it a day. So because of the size of this bag and the amount of chickens that I have, I actually bought 2. And I also ended up buying a 50-pound bag of starter feed, which does not make me terribly happy, but I'll just hang on to it for next year and probably just redo this combination feed mix again. So what I'm doing, I have this container. I believe this is a 40-pound, it's like a trash can, but I use this for, actually I use this for my scratch. But I dump my scratch back into a different container, so that this would be handy. And then when this is gone, I'm going to put my scratch back in here. Scratch is something that I typically just use in winter, which is corn, and that helps them stay warmer in the winter. So anyway, this is going to be their container of high protein meal for the next who knows how many days. So like I said, I just am layering this. I've got their feed. I did one bag of this already, and then I actually did throw in some of their normal feed. I don't want to like shock their system, but I also want to give them the protein and nutrients that's in their normal feed as well. So I'm really just giving them an a la carte. So we're going to just layer this in. This actually doesn't look bad other than the worms. I mean, I'd snack on this, but I won't. No mealworms for me, thank you very much. I'm actually really surprised that they're not in here or checking me out anyway, because they know a feed bag for sure. They know the sound of that. Okay, and then this is their normal feed. I'm just going to throw a couple scoops of that in there. This is just a random stick. Who knows from what? I'm going to mix this up a little bit. Actually, I'm going to use my feed scooper. Much better. And there you go. So their feed from now on is going to be this mix of normal layer feed, starter feed with higher protein, and some treats actually for them. They should totally love this and be completely happy. So when you see your chickens losing all the feathers this time of year, don't panic. It's okay. They'll be okay. Also, another thing to note, if you have really, really tame chickens that are like lap chickens, when they're growing their pin feathers back, when their pin feathers are starting to come in, it is very, very painful for them. So it is not recommended that you lift them up onto your lap and pet them. It can be very, very painful for them. It's lovely that you want them to sit on your lap. Just try not to let them do that while they're molting. It can hurt them a lot, and we want them to be as happy and pain-free, of course, as possible. They will work their own pin feathers, and there's like a waxy coating on the bottom when they're preening. So you may see some of those flaky looking waxy pieces in your coop or wherever. Don't panic about that either. It's just part of the preening process for them, and they're just making themselves feel better. So that's it for the molting, you guys. Hang in there. It's going to be over soon. Maybe you can use some feathers for crafting. I don't know. It's a mess, and you just have to deal with it. But the chickens will thank you for their menu options and giving them a little boost. And we are so excited to see you again next time. Thanks for tuning in.